the Soul of India series continues. Joining us next, we have with us Deepak Gugarii from Studio VDGA.
So I will be presenting today House of Courtyards, our recently completed project in Dubai. So basically it's a love for deserts. It's about my inspirations, attractions, and concepts behind shaping the House of Courtyards. I developed this affinity towards deserts right at the beginning of my architecture journey. Vast covers of sand against the backdrop of deep blue sky seem more than perfect, have always been perfect to me. The structures in deserts, I believe, are most faithful to their context. A strong monolithic presence, devoid of any confused identities, are paramount of desert habitats. Nature's adversities have always enthralled me, and I feel every soul has an artist in them. It's just that our artistic side is more prominent in the adverse situation that life throws at us. With this, I look at deserts with a great respect that were created by the local people before the arrival of architects. Be it the pueblos of New Mexico or kasbahs of Morocco or the streets of Rajasthan. Sensitivity then towards the climate was always inspiring. And now we come to the site. It had always been my dream for the last 25 years that I get a chance to build in the deserts of Rajasthan. And when this opportunity came, it was in the most glittering cities of the world, that is Dubai, which though has a strong relevance to desert, but the city itself is brimming with such a diverse architectural languages. Right from the glass facades to overwhelming massing to rarely found vernacular structure. It witnesses all. It was quite confusing as to follow which context. I mean, being conscious that we are going to Dubai. The macro desert context or the micro Dubai city reference. So while finalizing the design language, we decided to pursue and go further in search of a macro desert architecture. Knowing our client's demand for a modern style villa, we engaged in a search of a more minimalistic desert architecture. And we discovered these pueblos of New Mexico. The buildings are made of adobe, which is a mixture of earth, straw, and is deeply inspired by its texture. Its earthen color merging beautifully with the surroundings and their overall minimalistic, honest approach. What they have achieved during those times was what was just needed. On the other hand, the kasbahs of Morocco were nothing less inspiring. With their ascending, descending masses, small openings, tall turrets, and bold use of adobe, it's also fantastic. Very sensitively designed at a time when probably architecture was derived only through sensory experiences and the climatic requirements. So after taking cues from these two dwellings, we had our approach pretty well defined. I mean, it's every time that you start a project and you want to look at the inspirations where we can lead, I mean, that way. Now the only challenge that remained was my client's passion and ambition to have a super luxurious villa. And for him, the budget really didn't matter. And this is nowadays become a big challenge when there's a lot of money that clients carry and want to throw it away. How do you balance So keeping in mind, we had to balance both the purity in architecture and the luxury. So we consciously moved ahead with a lot of restraint. I mean, restraint was the mantra here. About the site, which was butted between already built villas, the architectural language of which I felt didn't justify the desert context. I mean, there was nothing that you can really draw inspiration from these structures and really try to connect the whole neighborhood. So it was more of an isolated analytics. So interestingly, while I was taking a tour through the streets of this gated community on my first tour, where the site is located, it felt to me that the whole community is like a bouquet of beautiful flowers, all imported across the globe. And something didn't look right here. I traveled to Dubai with a purpose, and I felt I should serve a seed of the land which can survive on its own and not really cultivate the foreign seeds which may have to fight for its survival in the harsh and extreme climatic conditions of the deserts. I hope you get what I mean here. Regarding the planning, I forgot to mention our another challenge. In India, by virtue of working in a densely populated cities, where the land prices are very high and we always get a smaller plot size to design. And whenever we got a bigger size plot, the client's requirement has been tripled. So in one way, it's interesting, but we all architects love or prefer to work on larger plot sizes because we want to explore and play. And now that we got a bigger size site of 30,000 square feet, we were extremely happy. But our happiness was short-lived as we got a requirement which mounted for almost 40,000 square feet of a house. Knowing this, when we start stacking the requirements, it turns out to be a cube. But then further scooping out the masses, placing them in ascending and descending order to bring down the scale, then juxtaposition of the high walls, courtyards, and the water elements was all an outcome of summer and winter solar studies to create climatically conducive environment. And this was the time our inspiration of pueblos came in, guiding us how to bring in visually pleasing pauses or intervals amidst a large footprint. And this ultimately became our main planning locus. The ideas of various masses rising unequally was to enable self-shading of the structures. This massing is outcome of a strategic and deliberate planning of the function behind it. Fenestrations also here are following principles of climatology, with the south facade devoid of any large openings. Now, this main entry to the villa is between two high parallel walls, for me, which symbolizes grandeur. They also ensure shading of entrance areas alongside the adjacent masses. The journey with curiosity of what lies beyond, for me, starts here. We intentionally designed some interesting transitory spaces, making journey through the house pleasing and interesting. You enter from a small volume and exit into a double-height spaces, and from the double-height spaces into the courtyards, witnessing the olives and the shallow water bodies cutting across the main courtyard of the house. This water body faces the puja room and has a Nandi idol immersed in it. And this is a central courtyard, which for me captures the true essence of the creation in many ways. Be it a single sculptural olive tree that seemed to induce sanctity in the space, or the turrets with a purpose or the lattice screens on the walk between the sacred water bodies. It all sums up very well. We have tried to bring in life in almost all the enclosed spaces. For example, the stairwell, as you can see, is basked with the diffuse natural light coming through the narrow skylight in the roof. I believe the quote, one does not see the surface, but the light reflected by the surface. And this sounds so apt here when one sees the light reflecting the beautiful texture of weathered stone cladding in the stairwell. Evolution of high turrets that you see in the rear massing has its own story. Our clients desired to have morning light coming into their main bedrooms. Initially, this sounded to be a little crazy idea, as rather it was difficult task as the bedrooms were placed extreme west side towards the Gulf side, say almost 200 feet away from the main facade, and the massing on the east side was blocking the light. So we introduced courtyards outside each bedroom, which we call as turret courts. And by the virtue of this, we brought in the morning light to some extent into the bedrooms. Basement of this house is another interesting space for me. We placed the pool in the basement of the house and the hammam, as we call it. It is literally a summer paradise to its surrounding lounge areas. The juxtaposition of the pool in the basement not only ensured privacy to our clients but also made the pool practical to use in hot summers. This pool for me is a hidden treasure of the villa, as you start from the entrance and at the end you explore the place. And this, next slide, this outdoor kitchen, chulah-gar as we call it, it is inspired from the traditional open air kitchens which we generally see and are made out of adobe and are used for to cook in a traditional way. Now, on this particular project, by accident, we stepped into our maiden journey venture of designing some stone furniture pieces for this house. The collection, which I have named as Imarat, these pieces are inspired from the magnificent stepwells of India to many other structures and are further transformed into pieces of art. Lastly, I have always believed that architecture should not be overwhelming, but it should be muted and soothing, like a balm to our souls. And we are constantly thriving, rather all of us, to create such poised, sensitive spaces that command respect and attention. This mantra has always driven me in my attempt to create truly, or try to create truly enriching works, which I hope may inspire few here. And this small video. Thank you so much.